G'day guys, Simon Chapman here from Speedcafe.com, here to preview the Beaurepaires Melbourne 400. This is RYCO filters clearing the air. Before we preview the Melbourne 400, where obviously supercars are playing support to Formula One, let's have a look back at all the proceedings that happened at Symmons Plains. Obviously it's a circuit where Triple Eight have typically dominated, but in the first instance it was actually Tickford Racing who got first blood, with Cameron Waters claiming pole position for race 3 of the championship. In the end though, it was Chapman who came out on top in the first race, and indeed he would sweep the weekend, winning race 4 and race 5 in dominant fashion. By the end of proceedings, Chapman walked away with 562 points to his name across the 5 races so far, 300 points for that weekend, just complete domination really. Anton De Pasquale currently sits second in the championship on 495 points, meanwhile Will Davison sits third on 440 points. The biggest loser over the weekend was actually Chaz Mostert, who came into Symmons Plains as the championship leader. He slipped to 4th after a weekend of woe for the Walkinshaw Andretti United driver. Just things not really working for the Mobil 1 backed car, just couldn't really get on top of it. Him and Nick Percat really struggling over the course of the weekend, and unfortunately Chaz has come out and said he's not really thinking about the championship now after falling so far down in the championship to 4th. The big surprise packet really was Brock Feeney. We were sort of wondering where he might sort of show up and whether he would get a podium or a win early on in proceedings in the championship, but he really surprised us in race 4, coming out and getting second place, which was a really great performance for the young Red Bull and pole racing driver. Obviously a quick turnaround between Symmons Plains and Melbourne, but there's been enough time for there to be a little bit of change behind the scenes. Confirmation that Dylan Talabani, race engineer at Grove Racing, has indeed left the team. We did sort of get a little bit of an inkling that that might be the case, obviously, when Will Davidson joined Lee Holdsworth on the number 10 earlier this year. At the time, Grove Racing said that Dylan was just taking a little bit of time out, obviously with his newborn arriving into this world. So confirmation then that Dylan has in fact left that team. Doesn't look like he's going to pop up at any other teams at this point in time. And also another move in Grove Racing is Dennis Heuser, who has left as the crew chief. It sounds like Grove Racing might be hiring internally to fill that vacancy. This weekend's Melbourne 400 will see 4 races, each totaling 20 laps, 75 kilometres apiece. It'll be an interesting one to see how it all plays out. Some changes in terms of the regulations with tyre use. So in the first 2 qualifying sessions, they'll have to use the soft tyre, and in the 3rd and 4th qualifying sessions, they'll have to use the hard tyre. Across the 4 races, you'll have to use both compounds of tyre, soft and hard, meaning that there will be a compulsory pit stop where the drivers can take on lap 2. One of the big things that's changed since we last went to the circuit in 2020 is the circuit itself. Obviously a lot of changes to the corner configurations, which is designed to make overtaking easy for Formula One. The same might not be the case for supercars though, with a lot of the corners widened and are certainly a lot faster. No real heavy braking zones to speak of. As far as those changes go, obviously turn 1, turn 3 and turn 6 have been widened. What used to be turn 9 and turn 10 is just gone entirely now, so that's a super fast run down to what is now turn 9 and turn 10. Speaking to Mark Winterbottom and a few other drivers in the lead up to this weekend, they're a little bit concerned that overtaking is going to be a little bit harder because we don't have those heavy braking zones that we're used to. Turn 13 might be sort of the hotspot for supercars to make most of their overtakes. That's been tightened, it's certainly a more acute angle, but it's also wider as well. So a lot of these corners that we're looking at are definitely a lot faster than what we're used to. As far as the form guide goes, there's not really a lot that we can read into some of the previous results, obviously considering the track changes and also considering the last time we actually raced here, it was Scott McLaughlin who won 3 of the 4 races. That was an interesting weekend for the then known DJR Team Penske driver, who had that funny incident with Cameron Waters on the warm-up lap, which meant he couldn't start from pole position in one of those races. That one ultimately going the way of Chaz Mostert. In what brief running that we had in 2020 before the COVID-19 pandemic struck on Friday, basically, Triple Eight, they were pretty quick. Jamie Whincup and Chapman taking pole positions. Will Davison was also fairly fast when he was at 23 Red Racing, but it doesn't really matter much because obviously there's a lot of changes to the circuit. The surface is totally new, so I guess in terms of a form guide, wouldn't read too much into previous results. All right, so that concludes our preview for the Beaurepaires Melbourne 400. Stay tuned to Speedcafe.com for all the latest motor racing news. Make sure you check out the R&J's Batteries Guide for everything that you need to know about this weekend, and stay tuned to Mobil 1 live updates.
The Nissan Skyline R32 and R33 GTRs are legendary performance cars that make big power, so maintaining their RB26 power plants is important. Many owners go for premium engine oil, but now RYCO has developed a premium oil filter called Syntec for your turbo engine. It removes 99.8% of contaminants and features synthetic nanofiber filter media to ensure maximum oil flow. It also includes a silicone anti-drain valve that keeps your oil filter full of oil between startups. Ask your mechanic for RYCO Syntec.